In the last 5 years, I've been on over 7,000 high-ticket sales calls, collected over $8 million in straight cash, and have maintained above a 70% close rate on other people's offers. And after training hundreds of closers, I realized the main reason why people are not hitting those big commission months isn't due to lack of talent. It's because they're making the same 20 mistakes on every single call, mistakes that could be costing you tens to millions of dollars each year in commission. I know because I made all those same mistakes myself, which is why in this video, I'm gonna be condensing 5 years and $8 million worth of knowledge into 20 lessons that separate 3K per month closers to closers who consistently do 10, 20, and even 50K per month consistently. So instead of wondering why prospects keep saying, let me think about it, you're gonna know what actually works. Let's dive in. Okay. Let's dive into lesson number 1. This is premature pitching. Now, after reviewing thousands of calls, this is one of the number 1 killers I see. And it's pretty normal to see why people would do this. When somebody says they have a problem, you immediately want to help them. And it's like you're really bought into your solution. So you just want to fill that gap. But the problem is if you jump right into solution mode, you're not building a big enough gap to get people to take action. At the end of the day, why do people change? Pain or fear of future pain. But the pain of staying the same needs to be much, much greater than the pain of change. Naturally, there's always going to be a pain of change, but people will minimize their current pain. And most people do not sit and think about the problems. People think by talking. So if I don't get them to actually articulate their problems, I don't get them to connect the dots. They never fully actually think about their problems. So I need to sit in the problems and get them to understand how bad it is through my actual questions that widen the gap. So really, a really easy rule of thumb is spend 90% of the time like amplifying problems and only about 10% of the time presenting solutions. Most of the sales call should be the discovery. You should not be spending majority of your time presenting. Okay? Do not present until they're practically begging for the solution. By the end of your discovery, they should already be sold on the fact that they need to change and they need to do whatever it takes. Then your presentation is just filling that gap. If you're at the end of the discovery and they're not bought into the fact that they need to change, you did not do your job right, okay? You need to go back to go, do not collect $200. If you do move on with that surface level conversation, again, you're just gonna get bullshit at the end. That's why you need to create the gap and show them where they are now versus where they need to be and what happens if they stay the same. But more importantly, show them who they are now versus who they need to be, really creating that identity level gap, and we'll dive more into that later. Lesson number 2, the getting to know you trap. So most closers that I see, they hop on, they're asking about the weather, they're asking about how they're doing, where they calling out of, and they're spending 5, 10, 15 minutes before they actually dive into the sales calls because they feel like that builds rapport. What it does in most situations, it doesn't help you, and often it can hurt you. Why? Because number 1, if they've hopped on sales calls before, another closer probably has asked them similar questions. They know you don't really care. And what that'll do is that'll trigger a script in their mind of, oh, this is just a salesperson. Number 2, why does it hurt you? Is because you're starting to put yourself in the friend zone. If you're a trusted advisor, right, you're gonna have to tell them hard truths. But if you're already in the mode of them rambling about nonsense and you guys being buddy-buddy, it's gonna be harder to deliver those hard truths or they're not gonna take it as seriously. You don't listen to your buddy conspiracy theorists about this new job opportunity, but you probably listen to your doctor. It's the same type of mentality here. So it trains your prospect to treat the casual conversations not a business decision. You're wasting time. The longer the call goes on, the more likely you're gonna run into a think about objection just because you talked about more things. So if you are pushing off, like when you actually get into the sales call, 5, 10, 15 minutes, you just talked about more things, it's harder to make a decision. And again, this triggers a script in their mind. So how do you start the sales conversation? Keep it pretty simple, straight to the point. Hey, looks like you booked it about solving problem, whatever it is. And then I'm just gonna dive into how can I help? This is very open, straight to the point. This is going to break the pattern of how most people are gonna start sales calls. So they can't predict my behavior, which means they have to focus on the conversation, which means we have a much realer conversation. And how I actually build rapport is through my skilled questions, actually understanding their problems and expanding their gap and making them realize and connecting all the dots like we talked about in the first lesson. Lesson number 3, playing on pain. Average closers ask about problems but stay at the circumstance level. They accept I need more leads without understanding the identity behind it. They accept surface level pain and move quickly. The problem is surface level pain does not justify the urgency to create larger investments. When you are selling something, for example, you have to think, how can I get this person to make an uncharacteristic decision? Because most of the people you're talking to have not invested in themselves at the level of which they need to this point. Now, some people you talk to have, and you would probably realize on those sales calls, you probably don't need to have as deep of a conversation. It's not going to hurt you if you do. It'll probably help you overall. But we need to get people out of their current self and get into the new version of themselves who's going to make uncharacteristic decisions that's going to get to their goals quicker. So without your amplified pain, without diving into it, without you connecting all the dots, your solution seems like a nice to have versus a need. And this is a big lesson that I learned from Matt Ryder, right? He's one of my mentors. And really early on when I was selling for 7th level, he told me like, hey man, you have all the skills, but the difference between why I could close 90% of these people and you're only closing 30, 40, 50% is because you sell a want. I always sold a need. That's the only shift. And once I was able to make that shift, I started having better conversations overall. You start to actually hear this language, and we'll dive more into it. But if you amplify the pain, it becomes more of a need. So you need to dig deeper. Okay. You need to understand how long has it been a problem, what it's cost you over that time. Turn their stories into tangible numbers. Okay. Make it concrete, make it hurt. Okay. Also get personal. How does that feel? Dude, I fucking love that question. Now, if you ask it super generic, that question won't land, but you need to make sure you customize it to them and ask it in a way that's like you're actually concerned for them. Fucking hits hard. Also, dig to the identity level, okay? Do you want to be the same person who deals with this, right? Do you want to stay being that person who deals with this? Okay. Ask consequences on identity. What happens if you stay this person for the rest of your life? Get personal identity impact. Are you okay being the person you have been? Why not, right? These questions peel back the layers and they really widen the gap on their circumstances and also widen the gap on the identity, the things that we're talking about. That's what makes people move. Lesson 4, you have to understand their words. Stop using generic examples and asking generic questions. If I could take the questions that you're asking and place them into another sales call and they make perfect sense, you're doing it fucking wrong, okay? It's like you don't understand your prospects and you're not trying to understand like their industry and where they're coming from. If a prospect feels like you don't understand their specific situation, this creates distance instead of connecting with them. You're not speaking their language, you're speaking yours. This creates distance. Again, every single question that you're asking, if you have a framework, a script, whatever it is, like they are tools and they should customize to the people that you're talking to. And when I'm talking to somebody, I'm going to use their words, how they describe things, not how I describe things. We might be saying the same thing, but if you describe things in a certain word, a certain way, and I describe it in a different way, there's a disconnect. But if I describe things the exact same way you describe things, right? I feed your words back to you. Okay, now we're in the same tribe and naturally this builds trust. We like people who are like us and we like people who use the same language. So use their exact words back to them in your questions. Mirror the language and patterns, you become part of their tribe. Okay, never label them with words that they didn't use themselves. Okay, now I'll make a caveat on the never label them. You can label them, you just have to make sure that they accept it. So if you are gonna label them, let's say for example, it sounds a bit like frustrating. Oh yeah, it is. What do you mean by frustrating though? Again, I'm going to get them to expand and get them to buy into that label. Okay, if you are gonna label people, make sure you get them to buy in on it. Lesson 5, talking too much. Have you ever been on a call where a salesperson just wouldn't shut the fuck up, right? Like they're basically unselling you. And me personally, I am a super lay down on any sales call. And there have been times where it's like, I'm just like, dude, right? If you keep going on for another few minutes, like, dude, I'm out. I can't pay attention. You think by just talking more, you're getting people across the line. But what's happening is if you're not sitting back and you're not listening more, you're going to miss critical buying signals and objections. You have to be able to pay attention to the prospect's words. Believe it or not, actively listening. And if prospects don't feel heard or understood, like at the end, they're just not going to trust you. So if you're getting a lot of, well, I need to think about it. Let me talk to, referral. Can I just see some more testimonials? Can I just see some more information? This is a symptom of them not feeling heard, them not feeling like you actually understand their situation. And probably it's because you're talking too much. Okay. So follow the 70-30 rule. Okay. Prospect talks 70%, you talk 30%. Okay. When they say something, ask, well, tell me more about that. What else? What do you mean by that? Just get them to expand on what they're saying. Don't assume you know what they mean. That comes back to before we use the same language or we use the same words, but they might mean different things to different people. Okay. Use strategic silence to encourage them to keep sharing. Now, this one's also going to be key in objections, right? When they're contemplating, we're moving them, and then it's like we're over talking. Okay. Sometimes people need to sit with things and really contemplate these questions that we're asking, because if you're having a good discovery, you're getting people to think about things they've never fucking thought about before. So if you expect somebody who's having this brand new conversation, we broke out of the mold, and them to just have these questions off the top of their head always, okay, like it's not a realistic expectation. It's not a good expectation to have. So just understand, if you're asking good questions, that takes time for people to think about good answers, which is a good sign. If they're taking time, that is a good sign. It means they're taking this conversation seriously. So lesson 6, the non-commitment language trap. This is the most costly yet hidden lessons. Most closers accept, like, I'll try, maybe, hopefully, I want to, or I'll figure it out on my own. Like, the problem is you're allowing them to stay in their comfort zone of non-commitment. Weak language reveals a weak identity. Understand, the way that people talk to you on a sales call is the way that they talk to themselves. And if they're talking to you like, oh, well, maybe, hopefully, I'll try, again, that's how they talk to themselves. So it's like, it's non-committal, okay? They're not actually fully bought into doing something. For example, when they say, I want to, right? We need to address it. Well, do you know the difference between a want and a need? Get them to shift their language from I want to I need to. When they say, I'll try, okay? What does try mean to you? Because Yoda said there is no try, right? There is only do, right? That's a really breaking out Star Wars quotes, right? Address it. You need to shift off from like, I'll try to, I'll get it done. And if they start speaking to you like that, that's also how they're speaking to themselves. They're going to be more committed. When they say maybe, well, help me understand what maybe means. Are you committed to change or not? Or you just ask the question, maybe, right? Get them to qualify, get them to expand. Like, why are they maybe? What's behind that? You need to understand, why are they non-committal? And if we accept it at the end, we're not having a real conversation. When they say hopefully, hope isn't a strategy. Are you someone who's looking to work things out and looking to actually get a plan in place? Do you want to rely on hope? That's one I'll use all the time. They'll say, well, hopefully I'll get it done. We'll say, hey man, do you want to rely on hope? Great. So let's create a plan. And then again, move on. When somebody says, I should according to who? Do you believe you need to change or not? Get more definites out of them. When they say if, you keep saying if. Do you believe it will work for you or not? This is something that you can always address on your sales calls. If you hear one of these things come over and over again, you hear them continue to come up, a real easy frame that you can do is like, well, hey man, can I share something with you? A word that keeps coming up is if, right? And can I tell you why that language might not be the best way to speak if we're truly wanting to change? And then we address it. Real easy way to get into it. Also, when they say like, hey, I'll figure it out. How's figuring it out on your own been working for you so far? What makes you think in the next 6 months it's going to be any different? We need to challenge this type of language, because if we don't challenge this type of language, at the end, what do you expect, right? If they were talking like this through the entire discovery, at the end, of course, they're going to give you objections. You allowed them to speak like this, right? We haven't tried to shift. Number 7, objections will happen. Okay, this is a part of sales, especially if you're a new closer. Don't get blind spotted when objections come up. Even if your discovery is perfect 100%, people are still going to have concerns at the end of the day. Okay. I hear people talking about, I close 90% and I never get objections. That person is fucking lying to you. And some of those people who say shit like that, I've heard their sales calls, right? And like, they didn't fucking close anything. The one person I'm thinking about in specific. And then at the end, they'll get objections and they'll just hop off because they didn't know how to handle it, right? So if you don't know how to handle objections, of course, you're going to tell everyone, hey, I don't teach this shit just because, again, if you're getting it, it's your fault, right? Total cop out. So yes, you should be pre-handling objections, but they will still come up in a perfect discovery. If you take this personally, if you get rattled, if you had a really good discovery, and then we get taken aback, what that's gonna do is gonna cause a break in trust. Understand that people are not rejecting you. They're scared of becoming a different person. So if you're talking to somebody, like legitimately, who has 20 years of inaction, and you've been chatting with them for 30 minutes and you just said, hey bro, like let's 10K, let's fucking go. On some level, the type of ego you have to think like, hey, my 30 minutes is enough to handle this 20 years of inaction without a little bit of resistance is super high. Right? It's normal. It's gonna come up. Like, you don't get caught off guard by it. Because if you do take it personally, if you do take it as disrespect, then you're not gonna handle the objections the way that you need to. So when an objection comes up, literally like slow yourself down and take a sip of water. Anytime anybody tells me an objection, like I sit back, I take a sip of water and I let them pause with it like this. And then I go into the objection. What that'll do is a few things. Like number one, you pause, you remind yourself, like you're here to help them overcome their objections, right? Overcome their limitations. You can slow yourself down, speak slower, but this also helps them slow down. So when somebody is fearful, they're not thinking logically, okay? They're in fight or flight mode. So if you expect them to act logically, right, you're gonna have a hard time. So what you need to do is slow down to get them to slow down and actually handle it, okay? So treat objections as if their old identity is fighting against their new identity. And this is something you could probably understand as well. When you're trying to step into being a new person, right? When you're stepping in to be like a top elite 1% fucking closer, there's always going to be that bitch voice in the back of your head. Like your old self is always going to be fighting you. So it's pretty safe to say that the prospects you're talking to have the same thing going on. So all your job is to help them overcome it. Okay. So saying something like this, man, like, I understand this feels scary. That's exactly what you should feel when you're growing. Hey, you should feel fear right now because you're doing something different. Understand, all your brain wants to do is keep you safe, keep you from dying. So if you're doing things different, of fucking course you're gonna be afraid. That makes sense. Lesson 8, understand what maybe means. Too many closers accept maybe. I need to think about it and other non-answers. The problem is, if you let people off the call with a maybe, without a real decision, it's an avoidance disguised as consideration. This wastes weeks of follow-up hell and the people who have already decided no in their head. So if you get to the end of the call, we need some type of definite answer, okay? Either, yes, I'm doing this and let's move forward right now, or yes, I'm doing this and here are the steps that I need to do so I can do this, or no, go fuck yourself. Right? Those are the three options. You know what I mean? Maybe, or like, let me think about it. Let me look over everything. Again, what they are doing is they have a concern. They're just not telling you, and they want to distance themselves from being able to make an actual decision. Now, when you're dealing with like higher level B2B stuff, like you're going to have some decision maker stuff you have to get through. Like, so you're not going to be able to get everyone, sold on that call. But they should be bought in, and then you also get them to get concrete ways of how do we get this moving forward, okay? So when somebody says maybe, we need to get beneath that. When somebody says I need to think about it, we need to get beneath that. Like, hey man, you sound unsure. What's behind that? What's the concern, okay? At least if you have a concern, that is something you can address. Okay, if you don't have a concern, you're gonna maybe let me think about it. Well, I'm interested in what you guys have. Let me just sit with it. Bro, what are we talking about here? Okay. I would rather have a hard no than a soft, well, let me sit with this, right? It's bullshit. You know it's bullshit. I know it's bullshit. You just need to get them to admit that there's something else underneath it. Okay. So again, what's behind that? What would need to change for this to be a definite yes instead of a maybe? Be direct. My job is to help you get clarity. So let's get clear. What's holding you back? Okay, remember, a clear no is better than a wishy-washy maybe. At least you both know where you stand and can move on. Lesson 9, authority at the end. Too many closers stay neutral throughout the entire call, even after a perfect discovery. So you've earned the right after you've had a good discovery and after you've actually uncovered the problem to be more assumptive, to act more like an authority, to push things forward. You are neutral at the very beginning of the sales call to get people to be open, not being assumptive. But after I know all your problems, after I know exactly where you need to go, I'm not going to say we can possibly help you. I'm going to tell you, hey, we can definitely help you. I know we can help you with your exact problem. The thing is, if you do that at the beginning, it causes resistance. But if you stay neutral throughout it, it's like, yeah, man, I feel like this could probably work for you. What you're doing is you're causing ambiguity. You're causing doubt, especially in a place where prospects need conviction. So you're neutral at the front. You are not neutral after you understand all of their problems. And this is a big, big problem that I see people have. Okay. So shift from being neutral at the end into being more authoritative. Okay. So we start neutral. How can I help? But at the end, we have conviction. Based on what you told me, this would definitely work for you. Replace if with when after discovery, when you get started, not if you decide to. Okay. Be direct. You're exactly the type of person this works for. Own your expertise. I've helped hundreds of people in your exact situation. Transition with authority. This is exactly what I need to hear. I know we can help you. So don't be a pussy throughout the entire sales call, okay? At the end, after you know the problems, after you've got them to trust you, after you have the rapport, after you understand their situation, then you know it works for them. You know they're the type of prospect you can help with. Tell them that, okay? Don't be neutral throughout it. Don't be wishy-washy. Don't be putting possibly, maybe, different things along those lines. Take ambiguous language out of the window when you're at the end of the sales call. That's for the beginning, when you need them to be more open and you don't want to cause sales resistance. After you actually build trust, after you actually understand their situation, neutrality goes out the window, you are authority, and you own your expertise. Lesson 10, the identity hijack. Here's the psychology that most closers completely miss. They think transformation only means showing the end result. You'll go from 5 to 50K per month, but this actually creates resistance. If somebody doesn't actually view themselves as somebody who can earn 50K per month, they're worthy of 50K per month, their current identity is gonna fight against the transformation you're promising. So you need to sell the identity shift first. You'll become the type of person who, right? This is what we're talking about. It's like you're not selling a transformation in terms of money. You're selling a transformation in terms of identity. So create identity gaps. So right now, you're the person who has current problem. Are you okay staying that person? Get them to admit that they are a current person right now and they're not okay staying that person. Focus on who they need to become, not just what they'll achieve. Focus on the character traits, like a confident CEO who doesn't chase clients, they attract them. When you focus on identity, number one, you'll have deeper discoveries. You'll have deeper conversations overall because you're talking to them on a much deeper level than, outcomes. But the outcomes become more inherent. If they become the type of person who gets this outcome, it just makes more sense. Rather than their current selves fighting back, you need to shift their identity, become the person who they need to be, who can make 50K per month. Lesson 11. Using social proof to resonate with prospects. What you don't want to do is just use generic testimonials or things that are super, super vague. Okay. Like we've helped tons of people like you. You want to have specific case studies that are specific results that this person wants. Okay. Now, this is something that should be in your sales process. You should not be spending a ton of your sales call going over social proof, going over case studies. You should have a sales process that gets this type of information in front of people. Use specific measurable results. Like Sarah, a marketing consultant like you, went from 8 to 31K per month. When I was selling, in 7th level, I had every single type of industry case study memorized frontwards to backwards. And either when I was triaging them myself or the setter was triaging them, or if they're just booking straight in and there are notes, I would send every single person a specific testimonial. If you are in home improvement, for example, right? Like let's say I'm talking to you on the call, I'm triaging you, I'm booking a call. I'm like, okay, cool, man, we got that call booked in. And by the way, we've helped quite a few people in like home improvement specifically. Do you feel like it would be helpful if I actually sent over like how we've helped some people in your space? It's at the top of my head and I'm always going to present it as, will that be helpful? Don't say, hey, I'm going to send you over homework. Nobody likes doing fucking homework, okay? Okay, so would that be helpful? Okay, perfect, man, because you remind me of Bill, right? When he first came to us, he'd been in sales quite a while too, and he was making like 10, 20K per month, but after 5 months of working with us, he hit a record high of 90K per month in commissions. Do you think that would be helpful to go over that? Boom, right? Now I'm tying in a specific case study to their specific results. And this should be something that is in your sales process. Yes, you want to get better at sales, but if through your process, before somebody talks to you, you can make them as much of a laydown as possible, there is no reason why you shouldn't be doing that. It just makes your job as a closer so much easier, okay? So make sure you're adding in specific things in your sales process, okay? You're not sending general shit. You're sending things that are specific to them. It's a little bit more work, but I promise you your close rate, your show rate, and your cash collected will thank you. All right, number 12, the value stacking mistake. I used to think just piling on bonuses and talking about all the features and benefits would increase conversions, but this is not true. When I first started in sales, I sold a SaaS software, okay? And it literally did like 30 different things. And when I first started, I would go over all 30 different things. It wasn't until I narrowed it down to like just going over the top 3 things that would help this business specifically that my conversions fucking skyrocketed and I became the top person on the team. Now, obviously, I improved my discovery as well, but making it simple is gonna help people make decisions. Too many options is analysis paralysis. If you've ever gone to a restaurant and they have a ton of different fucking options, again, you're like, what do I do? What do I pick? Like, there's a reason why like Chick-fil-A is so popular. They just do chicken, right? Like, they're not trying to do a ton of other things. They stick to simple things and the value proposition is very simple. That's what makes people happy. So lead with your top 3 value points only. Okay. Anything additional past that, you want to save for any type of objection handle, or if they ask specific questions, okay, you can go into it. But you focus on transformation, not feature. Okay. When you're talking about the value proposition, you're talking about the pillars, whatever it is you're selling, you talk about what it actually does for them. What's the end result? You always want to tie the feature, the benefit, whatever it is, to the outcome that they're going to get and the problem you're going to solve. Lesson 13, assumptions will kill your sales. Too many closers accept obvious answers when they're digging into problems and motivations. When prospect says, obviously I want to make more money, of course I want freedom, like you stop digging. And this will specifically happen oftentimes when I see when you're dealing with more affluent people who have a stronger frame, they want to pigeonhole this sales conversation as obvious and it doesn't need to be had. So if it's obvious, well, of course I want to make more leads. Of course I want to make more sales. If that's obvious, then I never actually get the real driving factor behind it. And like we mentioned before, if I say surface level, I'm going to get surface level commitment, surface level action at the end. I'm just going to get a bunch of smoke screens because they don't actually articulate their problems. They don't connect all the dots. So when somebody tries to say like, hey, it is obvious, you need to push back on that. Always. Surface level answers do not create emotional leverage. You miss the deep-rooted identity drivers that actually move people to action. So when they say obviously, push back. Well, help me understand what's obvious about that to you. Or you can say, well, hey man, like some people, they're totally fine with things being the way that they are. Why is it important for you to change? When they say, of course, well, I guess, of course, according to who? Where does that drive come from? Again, dig deeper. When they give you generic answers like everyone says that, what makes it personal to you, right? They're like, oh, well, I just want like, well, everyone wants to make more money. Well, yeah, man, everyone says they want to make more money. But why is that important to you? Why is that important to you specifically? Where does that drive come from? And then push past surface. That's what everyone wants. What's the real reason this matters to you? Remember, the obvious answer is never the real answer. The real driver is always deeper. So if you allow them to push you into having a very obvious and very surface level conversation, you're not going to be able to truly connect with them. Okay. If you allow them to have an autopilot conversation, they will have an autopilot conversation. Human beings are lazy. They are shortcut machines. So if you don't actually hold people's feet to the fire and get them to answer real questions, they'll be on autopilot the entire time, shortcut the entire conversation. And then at the end, again, they're going to shortcut that conversation too and try to hop off. Lesson 14, the justification trap. Never defend against bullshit questions and objections. This one for me particularly because I've been helping this lead generation company that sells like big lead generation packages anywhere from like 15 to 100K. And the top closer like on the team, where he always gets lost is he justifies these bullshit objections that people have with legitimate justification, which basically, it falls into their frame. And why is this bad? Okay. Most people at the end of a sales conversation, they're asking questions just because they feel like they should ask questions, not because they actually want to know the answer. And if we scramble and we try to justify these questions or justify ourselves or justify how we're different, our authority goes right out the window. Okay. You're letting them control the frame. The person who has a stronger frame in this conversation is going to win how the conversation is going to go. So if you have a strong frame, let's say like, hey man, we do this, we get this result, and we even guarantee it. And they try to poke, all right? Well, how many people have you refunded? Or what percentage get results? Or like I've heard from someone else that it should be more complicated. That one was one that I heard on a call, and he went into it and like just kind of justified this, and this is why it's not complicated. Like you're justifying the answer, right? You fell right into their frame. What you need to do is again, smack it out of the way, right? Because it's not real. So when somebody asks you like, hey, what percentage gets results? Or what's the catch? You ask a question back. You don't fall into the frame. You don't justify, okay? They ask, hey, what percentage gets results? Is there a certain percentage you're looking for? They do not have in their head like, hey, if 85% of people get results, I'm going to say yes. But if it's 84, I'm out. Like they don't actually have a real answer in mind. They're just trying to get certainty. They're trying to see if you're actually as certain as what you say you are. Okay, it's a shit test. Okay, if somebody says, what's the catch? You're not going to sit there and justify, oh no, we don't have no catches. We do really good work, blah, 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 blah. Bullshit, right? Hey man, why do you feel like there should be a catch? Right back on them. When they say, this seems too simple. We talked to another company. They said like we need at least 5 employees to run a system just like this. Well, I mean, we can make it more complicated and more expensive if you want, but we find that that's not optimal. Again, I'm not sitting here and justifying like, oh, well, how our system works is this, and this. Like if somebody says something like this, like they should feel a little bit silly for stating this, right? Because like they don't actually have the insight. So I'm not going to treat it like it's real. If they say, sounds too good to be true, what makes you feel like good things can't be true? Like, what are we talking about here? If I justify it with real responses, I'm justifying that they should be skeptical of what I'm saying. I'm not going to justify that. Okay. The frame is like, hey, I know what we do works. You saying these weird things, that is weird. You want it to be socially weird and really break them out of the pattern of asking questions that they feel like they should ask, but they don't really even need the answer, right? They're just asking because they feel like they should ask it. And especially when you're in B2B conversations, let's say you have 3, 4, 5 people on the call, dude, half of those people on the call are just trying to justify their existence being there. And if you sit there and like have a conversation that's not real, like basically seeing like, hey, if this person who's on this call can justify their existence by trying to be a hard ass, it's like, dude, you're losing frame right then. So stay in your leadership frame. You're not here to convince skeptics. You're here to help people who are ready to change. Let them convince themselves. If you're talking to, an expert, talking like Elon Musk, right? He's not going to sit there and like justify like, all the different things he's doing. He knows what he's doing works. He's an expert. This is what I do, bro. What the fuck are you talking about, right? This one gets me a little hot, right? Because this is something I've been dealing with more recently. Okay, lesson number 15, never overpromise on anything. This one's gonna hurt because I know a lot of you do this, but closers will exaggerate results to make their offer more appealing. What will happen is smart prospects will immediately actually read right through this and see this as unrealistic promises. Just understand that as human beings nowadays, especially in this climate, we're getting inundated with just offers and things and claims that we just feel like is bullshit. There's too many people out there that have been selling snake oil. So if we over exaggerate and we say shit like that, what it's gonna do is it's gonna put us in the box of being a snake oil salesman. And then if they do move forward on these buyer expectations, it's gonna create buyer's remorse and you're gonna get more chargebacks. And if you're a big enough business, you can actually get an FTC regulation slapped on top of you, get a lawsuit. Okay, so share realistic timelines with ranges, okay? Focus on what's possible with work, not guaranteed outcomes. I tell people this all the time, man, like, hey, I don't sell magic pills. All I'm gonna do is put you in a position of having the actual information so the work you put in actually pays off. But you have to put in the work. That realistic expectation, number one, it makes it more believable, right? So they actually trust you more. Number two, they're gonna come into the program, the training, whatever it is you're selling with the right expectations. They're gonna be better clients, right? So don't bring in bad clients that are gonna charge back. Lesson 16, matching the energy with the prospect, okay? Amateur closers maintain flat energy regardless of the prospect. If there's a mismatch in energy, this creates disconnect. Like we talked about before, people trust people who are like them. So if you are super, super energetic, like wacky inflatable flailing or tube man, and you're talking to somebody who has a fairly flat energy, there's going to be a disconnect, and you're not really going to be able to connect with that person. You can't lead someone into transformation without conviction. So you want to stay neutral and then lead with increasing certainty as you understand them. Okay, so if somebody comes on, let's say they're very flat in energy, I'm just going to be slightly more energetic than they are. And then as the call goes on, I'm going to be leading and pacing the energy and conviction. If they're a little bit more standoffish at the beginning, I'm going to be a little bit more standoffish too, slightly more trying to connect than they are, obviously. And then I'm slowly leading them, and getting them to be more open. And then at the end, that's when the energy, conviction, everything is going to meld. Okay. So you want to match their energy initially, then gradually increase them forward. Show conviction about their ability to transform when you've earned the right. Like once you've actually understood them more, once you actually get them to being open, then you can be a little bit more forward, a little bit more authoritative. Okay. But at the beginning, you want them to be open. Okay, so you're not going to be super authoritative. You're not going to have mismatching energy. You want to pace them. Lesson 17, silence is golden. Understand that there is an uncomfortable truth about silence. If you try to fill the silence every time it comes up, you'll be breaking the pattern of thinking that the prospect is having. If you're having a real conversation, the prospect will actually be thinking about what you're saying, especially in the objection handling process. For example, in my mastermind, I have one of my sales calls where legitimately we're at the end. It was this young guy. He was super fearful. And there's 5 minutes of him in his car, complete silence. And at the end of it, he's like, all right, let's do it, man. Right? If I would have butted in and I would have broke his thought process, right? I'm just going to cause more resistance and I'm making it harder on myself. And again, if you don't actually let people speak, you miss valuable information when prospects want to share, but they need time to formulate it. Now, you need to understand the difference between if they're about to say good information, bad information, that's another topic, but you need to get people to be open. And what will happen is if you constantly are trying to fill the need to speak, it will come across like you're nervous or you lack confidence. Okay. If you're very confident in yourself, you're a very centered person, you're not going to have to feel the need to fill all the silent space. You're comfortable with yourself. You're comfortable with silence. So you want to use silence as a tool to create buying pressure, not something to avoid. If somebody is silent, if they're actually contemplating what you're saying, what you're asking, allow them to do it. If you're doing a good job in sales, they will actually be thinking. Believe it or not, you don't want them to be on autopilot. Lesson 18, allow emotions to come into play. I used to let rejection just completely ruin my day. I would get, a couple no's in a row and then I'm just fucking toasted. Some closers will take rejections and no's personally. Understand, these people don't know you, right? They've had a 30-minute, an hour conversation. You don't take it personally. Your emotional state leaks through your voice, your body language. Prospects are very, very good at picking up on small cues. We're human beings. We're social creatures. So if there is something that is off with somebody, they're going to create doubt in the back of their head. And it's all going to be subconscious. They're going to get basically like a gut feeling like I shouldn't trust this person or this person wants something from me. That's when they can sense that desperation and neediness, which is going to kill your trust. And if you're allowing your yeses or nos to really dictate how you feel, you're going to have inconsistent performance. Okay. So a couple things that you can do to really help with this is like, number one, like have a reset rituals. What I would always do is like, I'll go in, I'll put headphones in, go out my balcony, get a little bit of sun, especially if I've been on a hard call. And I know sometimes you're going to have back-to-back calls. Literally text your fucking lead and tell them, hey, my meeting's running late. I'll be 2 minutes. Take the 2 minutes, take a breath and leave the call you just had on that call. Okay. Review it at the end of the day and then visualize the call going the way that it needed to. And then you leave that call there forever. Okay. You don't want to be taking these with you wherever you go. Also understand you want to track your numbers weekly, not daily, because just daily, just naturally, there's going to be ups and downs. Okay. But over a long enough period of time, they should even out. Now, if you're seeing weekly trends, That's something we need to address. But if one day you close 10 out of 10 people, and then the next day you close 0 out of 10 people, if after the day you close 0 out of 10 people, you think you're the worst salesperson ever, but during the day that you close 10 out of 10 people, you're the best salesperson ever, well, really just over those 2 days, you close 50%. That's not too bad, right? So you're a 50% closer. And if over a week period of time, that's what it comes out to, that's where you're at. And sometimes that's just how days align. So you don't allow the ups and downs of the day to dictate your actions. If you allow one day to dictate your actions, very short-sighted, and then typically you'll make mistakes. So remember also as well, on your calls, you're fighting for their transformation, not your commission checks. Okay, you develop your conviction that you're helping them regardless of their decision. So at the end of the call, you want to actually shift yourself from, hey, did this close or did this not close, to, hey, did I have a good call? And if at the end of the day, you can always say, you go through your calendar, did I have a good call? Yes to every single call. Bro, the score will take care of itself, okay? You'll improve your skill set. You'll improve what a good call means. But at the end of the day, if you can say you had a good call at the end of every call, you'll close more deals. You'll have more emotional control over yourself, and you won't have so many ups and downs, okay? This is a big problem I'll see, especially with younger individuals. Okay, lesson 19, appearance and communications. First impressions happen in 30 seconds or less. I know that your mom told you don't judge a book by its cover, but everyone judges the books by their cover. So if you're showing up on a call and you don't look at least presentable, put together, then again, that's just, you're giving away your authority. You want to look like you're an authority in your space. So your visual presentation affects your trust. If you have poor lighting, a messy background, unprofessional appearance, that kills your credibility. There's a reason why I have lights right here. There's a reason why I put a bunch of shit in the background. I don't look at that stuff. I don't care about that stuff, right? I mean, I'll read the books. That's to show that I'm in an actual office. I'm in an apartment. I'm not in my fucking mom's basement, okay? Your environment either supports or undermines your expertise. So again, just take a little bit of time. This whole setup back here, these lights, probably a couple $100, right? You don't need to go overboard with it. If you want to, you can, right? I have some stuff over here. I actually just got a whole new setup in terms of camera equipment, things like that. I just spent $10,000 on all that stuff. But if you don't want to go above and beyond, which I don't feel like you need to, don't feel the need to do that, but at least invest something into it. So good lighting and a clean professional background, dress one level above your prospect's expected attire. This is going to depend on what you're selling. What does an authority in your space do? How do they look? Okay. If you're selling fitness, you can probably get away with wearing more fitness attire. But if you're selling lead generation or business things, right? Maybe put on a fucking polo, look like an authority. And especially if you're young as well, that's something that can really help you. You dress up a little bit. Now don't wear a suit or tie or anything along those lines. I mean, if you really wanted to, that would just be uncomfortable. I just always wear a good, clean black t-shirt, got my watch on. That's pretty much it. So test your setup before every call to ensure professional presentation. So hop on your call. You should have a waiting room available, right? So they're in your waiting room. Make sure you look good before you let them in. Really easy to do. Don't look like you're selling out of your mom's basement. Okay? Simple. Lesson 20, understanding how your brain sabotages success. So most people don't understand why they can't stick to their goals or maintain motivation. So you need to understand how your brain works and understand how you can optimize everything around you to work with your brain rather than against it. So your brain is an optimization machine, and it seeks the fastest dopamine hit with the least amount of effort. So all dopamine is, it's a chemical in your brain that tells you you're doing something good. You're fighting against a system designed to take shortcuts, not build long-term success. So your brain is just structured to get what it's needed, to make sure that you're alive and you're getting good dopamine and you're feeling happy, and it's gonna take the shortest pathway possible. So it's modern distractions like social media, games, instant gratifications. This hijacks your brain's reward system. You can also put processed food in here. These companies spend billions of dollars in research to hijack your brain. Understand that. So they are very good at it. Even when I'm talking to you on YouTube, YouTube is a very, very large company that spends so much money into making sure that this video gets pushed out to enough people. And if it keeps your attention, it's going to push it out to more people to keep people on their platform. They are here to hijack your focus. Okay. You burn out because you're using willpower instead of systems. Willpower, finite. systems so you don't have to use willpower, okay? Don't always try to sit there and rely on willpower, okay? Because again, that will run out quickly. Build systems around your life to make sure you can focus on the things that you're doing. Okay, so there's really 3 key areas. There's energy, focus, and then motivation. Okay, number 1, energy. Brain fog, inflammation. I'll keep this very, very short, sweet, simple, especially when you're talking about the health, wellness, all that stuff. There are tons of different schools of thought that you can go down. I would just say stick to what they all agree on, right? Cut out sugary inflammation foods, right? Cut out things that are processed. This is what everyone can agree on. Eat meat, plants, simple carbs. Get 6 to 8 hours of sleep consistently. Sleep in a dark room. You should have it to where your room is completely dark. Get blackout curtains, whatever it is. Make sure your room's completely dark. It's cold. You're getting good sleep. And stop poisoning yourself with alcohol and drugs until you're actually successful. Because your body, even like, let's say, for example, you're working all day or all week, and then Friday you want to go out and party with the boys. It's going to take you a few days to recoup from that, right? So if you don't want to have like, your Saturday, Sunday, and even your Monday wasted, just skip drinking with the boys, go out and have fun without drinking. I'd also include in this as well, get some sun, right? Sun is good for you. You need some good vitamin D. Focus. Eliminate everything that doesn't move you towards your goals. Document what you do in a day and cut out anything that doesn't add value. Lower your lifestyle to 0 so money stress doesn't fragment your focus. No friends, no hobbies and distractions until you've achieved your main goals. This one is where we're talking about systems. I'm sure if you go and you actually document what you do out in a day, there are tons of things that are stripping away your focus. Eliminate it. Take it out of your life. If it's not helping you move towards your goals, remove it. Easy things that you can do is you can set blockers on your computer. For example, if I pull this up here, I can't get on YouTube, X, Netflix, TV, different things along those lines, and it's completely blocked. This is for 587 hours. It's also, I have blockers like on my phone. So when we're talking about like, I don't have willpower to not get on YouTube, right? If I get on YouTube, I'll just start binge watching theological debates and fucking conspiracy theories. Like, even though I have a 7-figure business, I have a lot of things that I can be doing that is like clear, actionable to make more money. If I allow myself, my brain is just going to take the shortcut. It's just going to be like, dude, fucking just let's watch YouTube. That will get your dopamine versus growing your business or versus becoming a better closer. So you just eliminate everything that's not that. And that's what comes down to motivation. Embrace the boredom to reset your dopamine baseline. So if you've allowed all these distractions into your life, social media, Instagram, different things along those lines, like, and I'm telling you, after this video, if you want to do a social media cleanse and you just focus on closing, getting better, all this stuff, do that. If you don't watch my next video, dude, fantastic. I want you to get better. You need to remove everything that gives you high dopamine and embrace the boredom. It's going to be better if you set these systems in place. Again, you set all these blockers, you set time blocks, and rather than like getting on YouTube, you sit and you do absolutely fucking nothing. Why? Because it's going to reset your dopamine receptors. So your dopamine receptors are going to be used to getting high amounts of dopamine, right? Fucking Instagram, like shorts, YouTube, TikTok, all this bullshit. So it's not going to be used to doing more hard work. The reason why people like back in the day, like in the 1850s, those people would like just read a ton of books for fun. It's like people don't read for fun anymore because we have things that give us more instant gratifications and more dopamine. So what you need to do is, again, lower your dopamine threshold, and this will make the things that seem more boring now more engaging, more fun. You'll have more motivation to do it. And once you set the system in place, like maybe it'll take a week, 2 weeks for you to get adjusted to it, but then eventually like actually doing training, doing role plays, different things like that will become more engaging. So let yourself be bored until productive work becomes exciting again. Remember, your brain will balance out and you will find fulfillment and growth instead of shortcuts. And this is something to where, again, I get this all the time because I took my first sip of alcohol when I was 24, and I maybe will have 1 glass of wine once a year, maybe. And the question I'll always get is like, well, how do you have fun? Like, I don't have my dopamine receptors set to, I need to have alcohol to have fun. Alcohol, again, it's going to give you more dopamine to make things more fun. So it raises what fun is. Like, I need this much more dopamine to have fun. Like, I just need this much dopamine to have fun. So everything's fun to me. Like, I'll go out and I'll have fun without drinking. So just understand, your brain will balance out. Or one of the things like I'll watch is people who, went to prison. I don't know why. I find that shit interesting. And the thing is, they always talk about like how much fun that they actually ended up having in prison and the friends that they created, even though like dopamine wise, right? The level of freedom they have is so restricted. You get used to it. And then they all talk about when they come out, they're super grateful for everything they have. And it's because what they are exposed to, what their baseline is, was lowered so much because they're stuck in a fucking cell for 20 years that everything is now super, super dope, super amazing. So understand, you will reset. All right, now that was 20 lessons that I wish I had 5 years ago when I was a novice at sales. And these lessons, it would have made it much easier to understand the exact mistakes I was making and how to make higher commissions quicker. But I do have one final lesson, lesson 21. That is implementation. Because it's one thing to know what all these lessons are. It's another thing to actually apply them on your sales calls. So to help you start implementing all these lessons that you learned here and learn all the lessons that I've learned over my past 5-year sales career, click on this video here. It's a complete 8-hour breakdown that will help you go from an amateur salesperson to a top 1% salesperson. I'll see you soon.